Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 28 female, am the younger sister to Sarah, 30 female, the golden child of our family. That term might sound dramatic, but it's the only way to describe the dynamic. From the moment we were kids, Sarah could do no wrong. She was beautiful, confident, and charismatic, the kind of person everyone gravitates toward. My parents adored her, and their pride in her was impossible to miss. As for me, I was the quieter, more introverted sibling. I wasn't shy, but I didn't have the same dazzling personality that Sarah did. I was content with my books, hobbies, and close circle of friends. Unfortunately, in my family, that meant I was often overlooked. Growing up, everything seemed to revolve around Sarah. If we both had events on the same day, my parents would always prioritize hers. If I achieved something, it would be acknowledged briefly before the spotlight returned to her. Family vacations were planned around Sarah's preferences, and even our home decor was influenced by her tastes. The favoritism wasn't just subtle, it was blatant. My parents would gush about Sarah's accomplishments to anyone who would listen. When I achieved something, it was met with a polite, "That's nice, dear," before the conversation shifted back to Sarah. I learned to lower my expectations and find validation elsewhere. The only people who truly saw me were my grandparents. They noticed the imbalance and made a conscious effort to support me. They attended my school plays when my parents didn't, celebrated my achievements, and always made me feel valued. Without them, I think I would have felt completely invisible in my own family. 2 years ago, I met Jack, the love of my life. He was the first person who made me feel like I was enough just as I was. When he proposed, I was overjoyed. For the first time, I felt like I had something that was completely mine, something special that even Sarah couldn't overshadow. When I shared the news with my family, I expected at least a little excitement. Instead, I got indifference. My mom said, "Oh, that's nice, but aren't you rushing into things?" and changed the subject. My dad barely acknowledged it, and Sarah looked outright uncomfortable. Later, I overheard her telling my mom that it felt wrong for me to get married before her. Shortly after Jack proposed, I moved in with him. I decided to keep my distance from my parents because I didn't want them to ruin the happiest times of my life planning the wedding with the man I love. It wasn't out of anger, but self-preservation. I wanted to focus on building my life with Jack, without feeling the constant sting of being second best. When the big day finally arrived, I was nervous but excited. Everything had been planned, and while I was hurt that my parents and Sarah had been so uninvolved, I was excited to see them on my wedding day. The ceremony was about to start when I realized my parents and sister weren't there. At first, I thought they were running late, so I stepped aside and called them. My mom picked up, and when I asked if they were on their way, she replied coldly and angrily, "What? We never received an invitation to your wedding." I was stunned. I reminded her that I had sent their invites months ago and even confirmed with them that they'd received them. But she doubled down, accusing me of being the one who forgot to send it. Sarah chimed in on speakerphone, saying, "It's okay, we understand if it was just an oversight." Their words felt like a punch to the gut. My parents and sister weren't late. They had no intention of coming. They had decided to skip one of the most important days of my life, and instead of admitting it, they blamed me. I hung up the phone in tears, but I didn't want their absence to ruin my day. My grandparents, who had always been my biggest supporters, stepped in to walk me down the aisle. Jack's family embraced me with open arms, filling the emotional void left by my parents and Sarah. The ceremony was beautiful, but their absence loomed over it like a dark cloud. I kept wondering why they would choose to hurt me this way, and if I had done something to deserve it. A few weeks after the wedding, my grandparents told me the truth. My parents and Sarah had received the invites to my wedding. They just had deliberately chosen not to come. The reason? They didn't want to upset Sarah. My mom felt it would be too hurtful for Sarah to watch me get married before her, because I'm the younger sister and my dad went along with it. Sarah, of course, didn't object. They decided it was easier to skip my wedding entirely than deal with Sarah's fragile ego. Hearing this broke me. My parents had prioritized Sarah's feelings over supporting me on one of the most important days of my life. I never touched this subject with them or Sarah again. I just kept distant from them. Fast forward to now, and Sarah is finally getting married. My parents are treating her wedding like the event of the century. According to my grandparents, they've been involved in every detail, from helping her pick the venue to organizing a lavish bridal shower. The contrast to how they treated my wedding couldn't be more glaring. It was painful to hear that when they didn't even bother to attend mine. But then my grandparents surprised me with a gift. A trip to Paris for me and them, scheduled for the same day as Sarah's wedding. They said it was their way of making up for how my parents had treated me. At first, I hesitated. I didn't want to seem petty or vindictive. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't about Sarah. It was about me finally feeling valued and celebrated. So, I accepted. The trip was amazing. Paris had always been on my bucket list, and experiencing it with my grandparents made it even more special. We visited iconic landmarks, indulged in incredible food, and created memories I'll cherish forever. I posted a few photos on social media during the trip, not even thinking about the timing, and that's when the backlash began. The morning after Sarah's wedding, my phone was flooded with angry messages from my parents. They accused me of ruining Sarah's big day and manipulating and poisoning my grandparents' minds. My mom called me selfish and said I had done it on purpose to hurt Sarah and out of revenge. Sarah called me, but I didn't pick up the phone because I knew it's just going to ruin my mood and the trip. I completely ignored them and decided to cut them out of my life completely because I just had enough. Since then, my parents and Sarah have blocked me on social media. My grandparents insist I did nothing wrong, and Jack has been incredibly supportive. But I can't shake the guilt. Was I wrong to skip my sister's wedding and go on the trip with my grandparents? OP's parents and sister have been treating OP as an afterthought her entire life, and it's about time OP stood up for herself. Skipping OP's wedding was unforgivable, and they didn't even have the decency to admit the truth. They lied and blamed OP instead. The Paris trip was a gift from OP's grandparents, and OP shouldn't feel guilty for accepting it. OP's sister and parents need to take a long, hard look at their priorities instead of trying to guilt-trip OP. They all just got a taste of their own medicine. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Wow, I can't imagine how painful this must have been for you. Your parents skipping your wedding and then blaming it on you is heartbreaking. It's clear they've spent years catering to your sister's ego at your expense. And honestly, it's not your job to keep walking on eggshells for their sake. Your grandparents sound amazing, and I'm glad they were there to support you and give you the trip to Paris. You're not the one ruining the relationship here. They are. I'm going to be honest. I don't think you're an a-hole, but I can understand why your parents and sister feel the way they do. From their perspective, the timing of the Paris trip and the photos might have felt like you were taking a jab at Sarah's wedding, even if that wasn't your intention. That said, they skipped your wedding entirely and lied about it, so it's hard to feel sympathy for them. Maybe you can have a conversation to clear the air, but they need to own their actions too. Your parents and sister are the real a-holes here. They didn't just skip your wedding. They gaslit you into thinking it was your fault. Now they're furious that you went on a trip that happened to coincide with Sarah's wedding? Talk about hypocritical. You didn't owe them anything. If they want to mend the relationship, they need to start by apologizing and showing you the respect you've always deserved. Until then, enjoy your memories of Paris guilt-free. I, 46 male, am married to my second wife, 44 female. We've been married for 11 years, dating for 15. She has 2 kids from her first marriage, who are now 24 female and 19 male. Their dad wasn't involved much, and I practically raised them with my wife, especially the 19 male. I had a child with my first wife, a boy, but he died from leukemia when he was 3 years old. My wife and I divorced shortly after that. Each year on the anniversary of his death, we still get together, visit his grave and have a cup of coffee together, and just talk about him. This year, my stepdaughter is getting married 2 days after the anniversary of my son's death. I will walk her down the aisle, and I am super happy about it. I won't be attending the lunch 2 days before the wedding, though, with both families of the soon-to-be married couple, because I will be spending that day with my ex-wife. I am attending the rehearsal dinner the day before the wedding. The same people will be there and at the lunch. When I told this to my wife and stepdaughter, they both got very, very upset about it. My wife said I'm an a-hole for not prioritizing our daughter over a trip down memory lane with my ex. And my stepdaughter said that I disappointed her now, just like her bio dad always did. My stepson is on my side, saying I will attend everything else, pay for the wedding, and have been very involved in all the planning and everything. For some info, the wedding is in 3 weeks, and the lunch was planned a couple of days ago. It wasn't the original plan. The rest was arranged months ago. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Visiting your son's grave is important to you, and has been for years. Not only that, but your family knows the day you do this, has known this for a long time, and scheduled the event on that day anyway. They should have expected this. As for your stepdaughter's reaction goes, it's unfair to say you were disappointing her like her bio dad did. She is comparing one day to a lifetime. That is ridiculous, and makes her sound like a spoiled brat. Your stepson is right. You are attending, and paying for, everything else. They can allow you this one absence. If your stepdaughter doesn't like it, she can pay for everything herself. Then she can really know how it feels to be disappointed. Not the a-hole. Your wife and daughter are a-holes. To say that your tradition of recognizing the loss of your young son is just a trip down memory lane with your ex is unbelievably cruel. Expecting you to drop long-standing plans just because she planned a last-minute event at the same time is selfish. Saying that everything you have done for her in the past and everything you are doing for the wedding is meaningless if you miss this lunch is manipulative and entitled. For context, my ex and I still live together with our 2 kids. Virus shutdowns permanently shut down the daycare we used, and our only option to provide for the kids was to live together again, so I could watch the kids while he works. This hasn't been an issue for us. On to the actual issue. My ex has been seeing someone for a bit. I mind my own business, so I don't know much about her. I just know that he says they're not very serious right now, and they're just seeing where things go. Beyond that, I'm clueless. Anyway, August 15th was the anniversary of one of the babies my ex and I had lost. On the anniversary of the lost dates for those other babies we struggled to carry to term, he buys me flowers. 2 red roses for the 2 kids we have, and 1 white rose for each lost. Mother's Day and their lost dates are when he buys them. He came home with the flowers the other day and a small stuffed bear he had custom made using the hospital blanket from the birth. However, today I received a message from his partner that she didn't like him buying me flowers and saying a lot of rude things. It ended with her demanding I throw away the flowers and tell my ex to never buy more. I refused and then blocked her. I told my ex what happened and we didn't talk much before he left for work. He seemed angry, but I don't know at who. I told my friend, venting, because I was really angry, and she says that she sees why his partner would be upset. She claims his partner has the right to demand what she did, and insinuated that I only care about the flowers because of the old romantic connection. She says I should throw them away like his partner wants. Am I really in the wrong for not wanting to get rid of them? Being jealous of your partner acknowledging their deceased children is super gross behavior. Not the a-hole. This girlfriend is out of line. Not the a-hole, and your friend's an idiot. If my partner gave his ex flowers as a commemoration of their deceased children, I'd think he was lovely and empathetic and be glad I was with a decent human being. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. If his partner has an issue, she should be talking to him like a grown adult, not attacking you. It's kind of weird territory for a relationship, dating someone who is living with their ex and the kids and buys flowers. But that's a them issue and not a you problem. If she wants to set boundaries, she needs to do it with the person she's actually dating. I understand it's weird too. It's why I try my best to mind my business. I don't want any of his new partners to feel like I'm an issue. We just co-parent together super well, and this living situation has been a huge benefit to our kids, mentally and financially. I did ask my ex to talk to her about coming to him about problems, especially since I blocked her, but we really didn't get to talk much before he had to leave for work. He just said, "I'll handle it," and that was that. I'm still not sure what that meant. But I do know that my ex is very strict about how people interact with me, because he says that he needs to respect me as a parent. So I'm leaning toward him being angry at her, and not me right now. Update. My ex texted me a little bit ago from work and apologized for not talking to me before work. He said he was just worried he'd misdirect his anger at me if he talked to me, because he was furious and hurt. We're going to talk about it more when he gets home from work, but he said he broke up with her and that he's not planning to give her any second chance. The most he said was that he would never stay with someone who disrespected the memory of his children and who would disrespect him by going behind his back like she did. For now, that's all I know, because he only gets short breaks at work. Update 2. My ex got home from work this morning and told me what happened. He works with this person, so he confronted her at work before they clocked in. They usually would sit in her car before work. He told her that he was angry about what she did, that it was disrespectful to him, to me, and to the memory of our children. He reminded her that he explicitly told her that things like that weren't okay to do, and that if she had any issues, she should have come to him about them, not me. She said it was disrespectful to her that he would give me flowers, and the least he could do was buy her some too. He said he wasn't going to buy her flowers when they didn't lose any children together, and explained that the flowers are about the losses we suffered. I guess she doubled down on it. He says he was open to trying to resolve the issue at first, but that she made a comment during the argument about our first 2 losses not being real losses, because they were barely even babies anyway. They were at 15 weeks and 18 weeks, compared to the 30 weeks of our last, from what his friend said, who also works with him and stops in after work each morning. He's never seen my ex so angry in his life, which is saying something, since they've been friends for 12 years. He told her he'd never view the loss of our first 2 any differently than our last. She had no right to tell him whether the loss was real or not, and that she was being a horrible person. He proceeded to tell her they were done, because he couldn't be with someone who would disrespect his children, himself, or the mother of his children in the way she has. He then told her to stay away from him for the rest of the night at work, because he didn't want to snap out on her. Because he was so angry and had a lot of things he wanted to say, but had held in. He says he ignored all her excuses and just reiterated himself that they were over and he would never date someone who disrespected everyone he cares about. They haven't spoken since, and he apparently plans on keeping it that way. So, basically, I lost my brother, 25, due to him not getting a kidney transplant in time. Now, this isn't going to be me blaming my sister, 27, for not giving up a kidney. Our father and grandmother both had issues with their kidneys. Grandma died. Dad got a transplant. So no one in Dad's side was asked to even get tested just in case. But my sister, forever the attention seeker, made sure to call me, 23 female, and my older brother, 30 male, out multiple times for not getting tested, of our BS excuses, kids. She was a match and lapped up all the attention, till it came time. Then she changed her mind. My brother Dylan, the one who died, forgave her, and no one else held it against her. She used my brother and his 4-year-old son for social media attention, posting pictures of him in his last days, something he wouldn't want, starting fights with his ex-girlfriend for leaving him. He ended the relationship due to his health. I kept away from her because I knew I couldn't keep my mouth shut, literally blocked her off everything when she held a "pity me he died because I was selfish" party on Facebook. The day of his funeral, today, she gave an Oscar-worthy performance, as in screaming it's her fault till someone give her attention, videoing parts of the funeral, and making comments about kicking out his ex for leaving him. But what I couldn't stand anymore was when she started upsetting my nephew by telling him he'll never see his dad again, and it was all her fault, begging him to forgive her and making false promises. So while she had my sobbing nephew at his dad's picture, I walked up to her. I'm guessing my aunt knew what I was gonna do because she got my nephew off my sister and walked off. I literally got in her face and screamed, "Get the duck out and look for pity somewhere else." She broke down and tried to say I was doing it because she never gave the kidney. At this stage, my living brother told her that no one cares about that. Everyone was just disgusted by everything she did. Everything stopped when our parents got involved. My mother is upset at me and refuses to talk to any of us because we made a scene. And my sister's girlfriend told me my sister was having a hard time as it is. Now she thinks we all hate her. Right now I do. Not the a-hole. I'm sorry for your loss. Clearly your brother must have been an amazing human to be able to forgive her for backing out. I'm also surprised no one kicked her out of the funeral earlier. I'm glad you stepped in while she was talking to your nephew. She clearly has issues going on. Everyone sucks here. Your mom is right. All of you made a scene at your brother's funeral and made it about yourselves. Your poor mom. However, I completely understand your point of view, but still, not the time or place. Not the a-hole. Your sister did help cause your brother to die. She could have helped him, but changed her mind at the last minute. While she can be forgiven, this pity tour she was on was unacceptable. She was being narcissistic, and at one of the worst places to be narcissistic. Your reaction was a lot, but everyone grieves differently. About 6 years ago, I, 30 female, was going through a pretty awful time and struggling with depression, and a lot of outside pressure from family, my studies, work, etc. I met a guy at a bar and had a one-night stand. A short while later, I found out I was pregnant. Despite my family's thoughts, I decided to have the baby. Yes, I was prepared to be a single mom, but I still wanted to find the baby daddy and let him know, which I did when I was about 6 months along. I told him everything, and that he didn't have to be a part of the baby's life if he didn't want to, but surprisingly, he actually said yes, that he's willing to be a father. So my little girl Daisy, 5 female, was born, and we agreed to co-parent. He passed away in a car crash when Daisy was 3. So a few days ago, my sister Sarah, 28 female, and her husband had a potluck. Daisy accidentally spilled juice on the rug. I wasn't there because I was helping arrange the food on the table. Someone else told me that Daisy spilled juice, and Sarah was with her, so I went to see what was going on. Sarah was telling her that she's a big girl now, and she needs to prove it. Daisy looked upset. I asked Sarah what she was talking about. She said that Daisy spilled juice, but that's okay. She's an unwanted child, so she doesn't have the proper discipline. Mind you, Daisy was right there when Sarah was saying this stuff. I got mad and said it was an accident and I'll clean it up, and both me and Daisy apologized. But she has no reason to say things like that in front of her. I sent Daisy to another room so she wouldn't hear. Sarah said that she's just speaking the truth, and neither me nor her dad really wanted her. I blew up, saying that we did want her after we found out about her, and her dad was also a loving and caring father until the day he died. I then told her to duck off, and that me and Daisy never want to see her again. We left after that. My mom messaged me later to find out what happened, and she said I overreacted. Sarah didn't even get mad at Daisy for spilling juice, and I went way too far. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. What kind of monster is your sister? Your mom even, for not seeing that behavior is horrible. I would absolutely keep your decision to be low contact or no contact. Your daughter doesn't need that kind of negativity in her life. Not the a-hole. Your sister needs to learn the difference between unwanted and unplanned, neither of which are appropriate to call a child, especially a child not their own. Wow, your sister is awful. I heard someone say truth without compassion is brutality. Your sister purposefully tried to hurt a 5-year-old child. I would be no contact with my sister forever unless she humbly and sincerely apologized. Not the a-hole. You protect your child. I, 31 female, have a wonderful 7-year-old daughter I would go to the moon and back for, and have been supporting her as a single parent. My ex, 31 male, hasn't really been in her life since we split when she was 2.5. He hasn't paid child support for the last 4 years and has sporadically visited her at his parents' home when she visits. He says he will visit her while hyping her up, and then not show up, only to give BS excuses on why he never showed up, leaving her devastated and upset that he didn't spend time with her. He has blamed me for everything under the sun, which I can prove to not be true. For example, he blames me for not calling him so he can video chat with her on my days off, when he doesn't even attempt to try in the first place on his days off. He even stated he couldn't pay child support because he was rebuilding his car. My ex had seen multiple girls in the past 4 years, but has been seeing this current girlfriend for about a year at this point, and she has a 3-year-old daughter. He shunted our daughter to be his girlfriend's daughter's father, doing father-daughter activities, like going to the pumpkin patch, holidays, and spending time with the 3-year-old. He forgot his own daughter's birthday for 2 years in a row, and possibly for a 3rd time this year. His family and I heard a rumor that the girlfriend was pregnant 3 or 4 months ago. His parents wanted to be in the baby's life, and I was ecstatic that my daughter would have a half-sibling, since I don't want more kids. He vehemently denied she was pregnant, and we left the subject alone. Well, about 10 minutes before I started my shift, I was told and shown that my ex's girlfriend had their baby girl that morning. I was livid. He had lied to all of us that the baby was coming, and severed whatever trust with him we had left. I started looking at family attorneys in my city because I know this will get messy. He wants parental rights without having to lift a finger or pay child support. I want full custody since our daughter lives with me full time. Before people ask, no, he's not in our daughter's life unless he wants others to see he's being a good dad. The last time he visited her, she didn't recognize him at all. Yes, I have filed for child support several times in the past, only for them to die in court, because he didn't want to sign the paperwork. I'm at my wit's end with him. I vented to a couple of close friends and close coworkers about this, and the majority are saying I'm the a-hole because I should be excited for the new baby, and that with the new baby, he won't have the funds for child support. Am I the a-hole if I go through with getting a family attorney and serving him papers while he's caring for a newborn? Not the a-hole. In fact, you'd probably be the a-hole if you let this keep happening. The courts will either terminate his rights or force him to comply with child support, visitation. Win-win. I don't know why people think getting a parent's rights terminated is the end-all solution to these kinds of situations. A sitting judge is not going to terminate a parent's rights for simply being a deadbeat. The state wants to recoup the money they dish out for that kid. How will that happen if rights are terminated? The parent would need to be negligent or put the child in extreme danger. I'd go with having the a-hole's wages garnished. Not the a-hole, but you should have done this from the very beginning. You need to retain an attorney now, and you need to remove yourself emotionally from him. His girlfriends, kids, whatever, are none of your business. Your only focus needs to be on what's right for your daughter, or you're trapping yourself emotionally in a relationship with him when it literally doesn't exist.